Right, morning all. We've got a really valuable, I think, presentation this morning, and we've got a couple of new people in the room. We've got a couple. We've got Jocelyn here, who's here for the first time, so new member to Growth Club. So welcome, Jocelyn. I'll just take this through, probably for your benefit more than anybody else, about what we're here for. When we ask that question, what's the most important thing in a business? We always get lots of different answers, like profit and staff and customers and all these different cash and your good product, good service, else that goes through with it. But people very seldom say the business owner. And the reality is, if we fail, our business usually fails. So we have to remember to look after ourselves and invest in ourselves as part of developing our business. And it's good to think about what they tell you before you take off about the oxygen mask falling from the compartment before the cabin depressurizes. And they always tell you to put your oxygen mask on before you help anybody else. So before we think about anything else in business, we should actually be making sure we do our own bit of health check and invest in ourselves. So the first purpose of Growth Club is to ourselves, and we're here to learn some new stuff. Pete Barfield is going to be presenting some thoughts today, but in the breakout rooms, the really interesting thing is how we share that information and learn, and inspire each other and go away with some practical things that we can actually do, if that makes sense. And it's really doubly important at the moment because, there's a classic road sign, isn't it? When you see it, change priorities. Are they telling me what to do on the road here, or are they talking about my life? And the at the moment, there's a lot of uncertainty. So we're all going to be thinking, what are the priorities sort of coming up? And I'm not sure that much has changed when you think about what our business is. We want to grow sales. We want to provide excellent service. We want to drive efficiency, which means that we can grow profit. And if we're doing those three things in terms of growing sales, providing excellent service, and driving efficiency, we will be profitable. And I think as business owners, we tend to focus an awful lot on that growing sales and providing excellent service. And today we're going to be, the driving efficiency provides us more time to do more growing sales and providing more excellent service. But really, it's about that driving efficiency. If we take a pound, make 50p profit rather than 40p profit. And our life changes considerably. We have more resources in the business. So looking at how we go from sales to profit and the processes in between, I did that as a little thing because it's not process mapping, that isn't, but that's what we talk about when we're process mapping. We draw boxes on a piece of paper and you say, what's the first thing we want to do? So the first thing is a customer phones us. What's the last thing we want them to do? We want them to become a paying customer, and what are all the steps in between to make that happen? And then you can talk through your service delivery in the same way, and you can talk through all of the elements of your business and map them out. It sounds like a laborious task, but it really isn't actually that laborious. It's quite an enjoyable thing to do. So I'm going to just quickly open up the breakout rooms. That's going to give Pete a chance to get his presentation up. There we go. I'll create those breakout rooms now. We've got a couple of people who said they're going to be a little bit later, but I can sort that when they get here. And just say hello, and maybe have a think about, have you ever been through this process? Have you ever sort of thought about streamlining your processes? Is this something you'll really focus on? Is this something you're not that focused on? And we'll see you back here in just 5-ish minutes, something like that.
Okay, thanks. Morning. So yeah, I'm Pete Barfield. I consider myself to be a digital technology evangelist, as I love technology. I can't help but tell people about new ways to use it. So incidentally, this photo you see here is where it all started. This is something called the Manchester Baby. It's the first electronic stored program computer that I had the pleasure of programming recently on a trip to the Science Museum up there. So this is where we started in terms of software or storage. I wanted to talk a little bit about software for your business today, how to figure out what you need to pick the best from as a huge product offering out there. Very, very quick about me. My first love was one of the most affordable computers in 1985, a Commodore VIC-20. It had color graphics, sound, animation, and I could make it do things by following programming examples in a manual. So I was fascinated by all the possibilities that this opened up to me. And yeah, that moody teenager surrounded by technology there is me. I was the kid at school teaching the teachers about computers. So while most school kids' final projects look like this, I was producing something like this. This was a shoot 'em up called Bart in Space, and I got an A in computer science. At 15, I worked as a game reviewer for one of the biggest Atari magazines, which is a dream job for a kid. I gave that up, went to university, did a computer science degree, worked for a local computer company building the product range. Part of that involved working with chip makers like Intel and AMD. The idea being to get the latest silicon before everybody else so that I could get the fastest computers, get them into the mags, win great reviews because that meant great sales. Realizing the internet was going to be huge, I used my software engineering skills to become a web developer. So I was working for a couple of dev agencies, building e-commerce solutions, that kind of thing. I was then headhunted by a local IT startup to develop their web-based PC sales. This turned into building an internet hosting company and a development agency within the business. So we ended up servicing around 300 businesses, 2,000 schools, something like that. Then I realized I should have put all this effort into my own business, so I started PBS Creative. So we partner with companies who have a barrier to growth because of their technology. So what we do is we build software in the cloud, modern web apps, e-commerce systems, databases, websites, things like that. We're 8 years old now. We've got 4 devs, 2 admins and me. One of our latest projects is some new software we're taking to the marine market. That's an add-on for storing detailed boat inventory into a cloud marketing and CRM web app called HubSpot. So we're building new technology to take it to new markets. We're also working on a new brand called Cloud Construct, and that's going to promote our global hosting skills built on AWS, which is Amazon Web Services. Some of you guys have probably heard me talk about that before. As if that's not enough, we also operate our own SaaS product. I'll go into what that means later. That's called Board Clever. And we also own half of a workwear clothing business called My Workwear, and that's based over in Halesfield, Telford, where PBS has their office. And Johnny thought it might be nice for me to talk to you about apps or modern software. So a little bit of history. In 1982, Time magazine featured its first non-human of the year. That was the PC. Back then, software was something that you installed on your computer. 38 years later, we've got 1 billion powered on Windows computers worldwide. So from then until now, it's natural for people to think about software. They think about Word, they think about Excel, accounts, but tools that are running on their PC in the office. The internet changed all that. We've had some useful online web-based tools for a while now, but we're at a point of having full-featured, so proper usable applications like those that were running on your desktop, now running in a web browser. This is known as cloud computing. So a few important terminology terms that are used. These are often used interchangeably when they're not really. So I just wanted to quickly go over what this means. So what is a web app? So this is stored on a cloud server. So it requires an internet connection to work. Generally, you can use any device with a web browser, including mobile devices like your phone or tablet. Examples of that might be Google Mail, if you've used that, or the Google Suite, which is a multi-user, fully featured set of Office tools. So it's a bit like Microsoft Office in the cloud, but you don't install it on your computer. Then you've got mobile apps. These are apps that are coded specifically for your mobile device. So if you've got an Apple or an Android device, it'll work on that, but probably it'll work without a connection as well. So that might be like your news or weather app, you just fire it up. Another example is Facebook, but that's interesting because that works both as a mobile app and as a web desktop app. So you can access your data using either way. Then there's software as a service, or SaaS. That's a sales model of web apps. So a bit like electricity or water, what you're doing is paying for your consumption. So the more you use, the more you're paying. So examples of that might be Xero accounts. So as a monthly subscription, you just pay that as you go. Or Google Suite, which is similar, but that costs per user. So the more users you have, the more you end up paying. So how do modern apps differ from what I was calling traditional apps? They're not stored on your computer. So they're off-premise, they're out of the office, and hosted in this magical cloud. That means you don't need to worry about server maintenance or hardware failure, disaster recovery, or security updates. So all of that can be a massive cost saving, not having to run that box in the corner of the office. They work from any internet connection, so that makes them lockdown friendly. So recently we've seen how companies have scrabbled around and struggled to meet demand for their staff to work from home during lockdown. And they were setting up VPNs, dialing into the office, finding they hadn't got connections fast enough to support all their users. All of these problems go away when everyone just has an internet connection at home and dials into a cloud server. SaaS sales model, that means that apps are usually getting continual improvements. You pay them monthly, they're making changes in the background, they're doing updates, they're doing patches, they're automatically applied. You don't need to do anything. So there's no need to pay for or install upgrades like you would if it was sat in your office. Because internet apps are already online, we can easily connect and link them together to share data. So that's a huge benefit in making us more efficient. There's a massive range of choice. At the moment, there's about 2.2 million apps on App Store alone. Then you've got Google Store and you've got other apps you can just download and use. So it's okay to be pretty confused by the options that are out there. So why bother to keep any legacy apps at all? Why hasn't anyone moved to this great utopia of modern cloud-hosted apps? Well, for SaaS models, you might find that the cost per user or the long-term total cost of ownership could be higher than buying software. So what do I mean by that? Well, a bit like property, do you rent or buy? Starting out, you might want to rent because then you put your roots down and it's a cheaper way of doing it. But yeah, you might want to move on when you've established yourself, and it might make long-term financial sense to go away and buy a house. With software, you've got to factor in the cost of the server hardware, the support, the maintenance, and all the other disadvantages of running on-prem. So it's a balancing act between how much and how long do I pay for this as a software every month versus investing in it all initially, which could be quite expensive. If you lose the internet connection, then you could lose access to the software, but it's pretty rare. Most people's connections are pretty stable now. Plus, you could always have a mobile connection backup as well. One of the other things about cloud apps is you don't own them, although technically you don't own software for your computer either. You just have a license to use it. But the point is you might have some floppy disks or some other way of installing it from many years from now, and you can just plonk it on your computer. You're not paying a monthly rental. Generally, most tech companies have got a good ethos, but there are a few common gotchas, and there's some sharp sales tactics out there. Most offer, or a lot of them offer a free subscription level to get you hooked into it, but you might find you're going to want to use the paid version pretty quickly. They'll give you a little taste of it, and then the real meaty good features they're going to want you to be paying for. So they'll be hidden behind what we call a paid wall. Try not to fool yourself into thinking you're only going to use the free level. Do plan to actually upgrade to the full product, because you inevitably will end up doing so. You should consider your growth plan. If this is still affordable, would it still be affordable if you doubled your user base or even your storage needs? As you're paying for what your usage is, it's going to get more expensive as you go along with some products. Be wary of lengthy commitments or long cancellation periods, often hidden in the small print. You've got to ask yourself, for those guys, if it's so good, then why don't they just offer a monthly subscription like everybody else? Give yourself a trial period or with a backup plan. Don't just go into it, roll your eggs in one basket. Make sure it's right for your business first before potentially being stuck with something that might not be quite right. The lockdown experience really highlighted to me how some service providers aren't able or flexible to put subscriptions on hold. I had some stories where people were tied into paying quite an expensive subscription, but they couldn't downscale it. So all their staff were furloughed and off, and they were still having to pay for this bill. So it's good to make sense that you can reduce the number of licenses as well as upscale them if you need to. Check that you can export your data easily. One trick is to effectively hold all your valuable information to ransom. So you don't want to end up paying for a subscription just because you've got all your historical data in there. Just do check that you have got some way of getting that data out, and you can maybe use it in a different system in the future. And anyone that says call for price, often it's an indication it's going to be pretty expensive. You're going to end up talking to a sales guy who's going to convince you of all the wonderful reasons why you should be using their platform. I've recently had this with a platform, and they still insist on calling me every week to try and get me to buy the thing. Something I see regularly is people using lots of different SaaS products without really considering how they operate together. So you might have sales, you might have accounts, you might have file storage or project management. They start adopting all of these different things, and they can end up in a real mess if you're not careful, if you don't think about how one program could end up talking to another. This kind of thinking, it applies to everyone. So don't think I'm too small for this. This is really something you should be thinking about, whatever size of your business you are. A slick, well-planned business process will save you time, enable growth, keep you organized, and improve customer experience. All those things on that slide are super important. The sooner you start to plan your processes, the better you'll form some good habits for you and for your staff. You're going to end up with a nice thought out process, which makes training your staff, bringing people on board a lot easier. It's going to be useful for illustrating your business competence, and it's used for compliance and things like ISO standards. They're going to want to see that you've properly thought out the way that you're running your business. A good example of that is fast food chains. So it's a bit of a low resolution image of this, sorry about that, but here's the customer journey through Starbucks, and you can see where they've really thought through the whole process. What happens from when somebody walks into the door to either sitting down and having their drink or walking out the door, essentially. That whole thing. What are their options? They're going to come to the counter, they're going to order something. Are they going to buy merchandise, or are they going to buy food or drink? If they're buying some food, there's an order's taken, they're writing the name on the cup, there's some money exchange. This whole process that they go through is designed to be as fast, efficient, as customer satisfying as possible. And of course, that all means it's as profitable as possible, right? The problem with this journey is if somebody forgets to write the name on the cup, or something goes wrong, then it all descends into chaos. But generally, you need to think out the process and make it as try and think of every scenario that could go wrong, or how it would go wrong, and keep it as slick as possible. Now, there are some really good formal methodologies on doing this professionally. I'm just going to go with a bit of a layman's way of doing it. It's going to be very helpful, and hopefully it will open your eyes to what's going on in your processes and what's going on in your office. So it can be really beneficial without having to train up to become a software engineer first. Mapping out your processes can just make you really figure out what's going on in there. All these little tiny interactions that are happening, all the steps that are required to achieve something, and what that something is. So you can just grab a paper and pencil. It can be as simple as that. Saves you learning another bit of software, but if that ends up a bit messy, if you've got some complicated, a lot going on the page, try something like Lucidchart. They've got a free trial, so you could look that up at lucidchart.com. Try not to limit yourself to how you're doing it. And what I mean by that is, if you think what the ideal picture could be, what is the best scenario? So, and also, when you're actually implementing this stuff, don't try and change everything at once, because that might cause you more problems than fix. It can be pretty scary and overwhelming to start with when you get a big diagram like this. Break everything down into smaller tasks. So, for example, here we've got a local hotel that asked us to look at wedding planning. They're a new customer to us, so I don't really fully understand everything that they do. So what we're going to do is start to think about all the areas of their business. What are they? So in these boxes, you can see on the left, we've got some incoming leads and how do they get a customer to come to them. They've got a sales marketing process. I put 1.0 on that. We can then drill down into that and make another diagram for that and explain how the sales marketing process works. They've got prospects, they become customers. Customers are linked into weddings. When you've got a wedding, they have priority room allocations for bookings. They have restaurant rooms that are booked to that wedding. People come along that they're guests to the wedding. So really just trying to think about all the entities, all the things that are involved, all the people, how they link up, and the interactions that are going on. I shamelessly stole this from Friday morning, and Johnny had this in his slides. It shows how Good to Great have started to think about their lead generation channels and how they're handling them. So at the top there, he's got all of his incoming leads and the websites and where they come from. Is it email? Is it from a database, leaflets, blogs, social media? All this traffic that comes in, it goes into his website. They fill in a form. Maybe they've got a thank you page and an email confirmation link to submit and give some more information. Looking at this, I start to think about things like, well, what happens if they don't get that email confirmation? Say it gets blocked as spam. How do you get around that as a problem? Could we introduce a reminder process in here somewhere so that if somebody didn't fill this in, then we follow them up later and get them to do that, to encourage them to do that. They might not have had time when they receive that email or just binned it. So there's a couple of examples of kind of processes, just fairly rough things linked out on the page. And we thought for the breakout session, how would have a think about tasks that you could be doing right now. What could be more efficient? What are you doing repetitively? What could maybe be automated? What mistakes are happening? Are you sort of having problems in your processes that you're constantly hitting, or your staff are doing by mistake? What information have you got that's not being recorded digitally? What could be beneficial shared with clients? Does your software support your business processes? Importantly, most importantly, is it going to help you grow?
Cool. Thanks, Pete. You were showing that process there and you say, yeah, that's just a bit rough. That's not bloody rough. That was good work. Anyway, sorry. I'm going to open up. Pete, could you put that next slide up again? Sorry. There we are. So I think this is really about your processes, what we do. And I can't stress enough how useful this is, particularly if you're in a sales meeting with a new client and they say, so tell me how you do this. Right, well, it's very straightforward. We follow a really, good process that we've got pretty well refined here. So you can be assured that we know what we're doing. And customers and people really like to hear that you have a good process. If you're serving the public, when people walk into your, take Rachel, for instance, if people walk into your businesses and they can see very clearly how they have to get the best service possible. Maybe they go to their table first, maybe they go to the bar first, maybe they wait to get seated. What is the journey? What's the process for that customer to have the best experience possible? So it's really good just to think about what's best for the customer and what's best for you and how you can deliver it really efficiently. Anyway, I'm going to open up the room because I don't want to give Pete's presentation all over again. And I'll see you back here in about 15 minutes.
I was just asked when we left the meeting room then, what do I think is the best CRM system? And again, this comes back to what you want to achieve from the software. So that's my answer to that one, I guess. So yeah, the outcome. So you've gone through this process of process mapping and really thought about how your business works, where the improvement could be, communication that maybe isn't happening or should be in different areas. For example, an invitation for feedback when the job's done, is that happening? Are you sending confirmations of orders? Do you send notifications if there's a delay? All those nice customer feedback and interactions that could be going on. And you'll start to also see which processes are decoupled. So what do I mean by that? And the ones that are becoming like little data silos. So this process does this over there, or this software's got this data, but everything else over there could also benefit from linking to it. So that's called a data silo. It's just sat there and could be more useful when you release it. So just start to think about how processes could share that information. maybe get some business intelligence out of it, some performance reports. So let me find the button to go to the next slide, sorry. Integrations. So this is the idea of an API. So a lot of the products just make sure that they have a way of you having a backdoor into the data. It's a way of being able to get your information out of that one program and then pulling it into something else. So your HR system, your client data, your reporting, everything can get access to everything else. It might feel pretty complicated at first, but it's really worth it. Workflow automation, this is the future. This companies that are using automation right now, they're gaining a competitive advantage to people that aren't using automation. It really is the key to making systems as slick as possible. I've got an example here of a couple of ways that you can, without needing a software engineer to help you, you can build workflow automations by linking applications, web apps that are there. It can make your life easier for your staff. You don't need to train them how to use a spreadsheet. Maybe they could just use a form, or even better, just get your customer to fill in a form and that'll put the data where you want it to be. So, yeah, people can be put off putting into time into setting this kind of stuff up or adopting it. But you just got to think that 60-second task that I keep doing every day, it doesn't take that long. It's going to save you hours and hours over the year. And more importantly, these automations are going to enable your scalability and enable your growth as a business. So Zapier, and if this, then that, I always get mixed up how many T's are there. These are web apps themselves, which make it really easy to link up other ones. So you register all the apps that you use, and then you pick formulas. It's a bit like putting Lego bricks together. So you, on this example here, we've got a Google form. So you link a Google form up here and you say, when somebody fills this in, put this information into a Google Sheet. When that new line gets entered into a Google Sheet, it might create a new contacting free agent. And then it assigns a task for a bookkeeper to go away and check that. So this all happens automatically from the customer filling in the form through to your accounts person picking it up, finding all the data. It's already entered into your account system. It's going to save a whole bunch of time and probably mistakes where people mistype stuff as well. So yeah, check out Zapier, and if this, then that. Wanted to just quickly talk about some of the platforms we use and how we use them. When we started PBS Creative 8 years ago, we were pretty careful in choosing apps that would work well and do the task from day one, and we could continue to use them as we grew to today, and we're still pretty much using the same stuff. So we've done a fairly good job of that. The idea of starting right is really important. So for example, with a CRM system, a lot of people start, they might just have a little black book and they write their contacts in it. Maybe they move that onto a spreadsheet and start entering their details into a spreadsheet, but then soon hit the limitations of that. SaaS CRMs are so cheap now, even free in some instances, you might as well start using one of those from day one. So what do we use? We use, for project management, we've got an application called Trello. It's been around for quite a long time now. This helps us with our client communication. So there's two-way conversations going on our tasks. You can see in the screenshot here, we got these vertical columns or stacks, as it's cool to call them now. And we have these little cards within the stacks. So as an example, we've got a software project flow going here. So we've got the backlog, the designer prototyping, a to-do list. We've got a code review with testing, and then finally done at the end. It means we can assign all of our tasks to developers. You can see little people's faces in these cards. We can do automated notifications. We can set due dates, so it will start flagging to people that this is due, pick this up. The whole project information and everything stored in here, and it's shared with our customers as well. So just something covering my screen here. So moving it to done, the done column can notify project manager so they know that it's been done. And there's a couple of other people that are doing similar products now. So you've got things like Asana on Mondays. You might want to check those out if you think something like this could be useful to you. Task time and recording. So a lot of the jobs that we're doing are charged based on the time that we're spending doing them. So this is absolutely super important for our business, making sure that we're staying within budget and making sure that we're able to look at a project at the end of it and see, well, where did the time go? What were the expensive parts of this project? So we can make it and improve it better next time we do it. So Apollo HQ lets us start a timer on a task and then stop it, and then have several of these during the day as we're moving to and from things. And what we've also done is we've built a little dashboard. So we built our own software, which is this square in the middle here. So we can see one of the developers, Matt, we can see all the time he's clocked up this week, how much this month, this year. So I'm making sure that his attendance and his time logging and what he's actually doing. And all of his tasks to focus on are listed on this dashboard. These are pulled out of Trello and with Apollo. So there's little links to each one of these so they can very quickly get to the discussion about the project task or to the time recording functions. And here we've got a couple that are overdue. I took this screenshot at the weekend when this stuff was due on a Friday. We normally have a project meeting on a Monday and then we review these and reset these. You can see there's one on there for Johnny's good to great proposal, which we're working on at the minute, which is overdue. We'll sort that out, Johnny, sorry. Yes, so we then export that to our invoicing platform. And all this is customer shared as well, which is super useful for them to be able to monitor what we're doing. Our monthly invoicing process. So we were finding as we got bigger, as we were doing more projects, recording more time, it was taking longer and longer and longer to do our invoicing at the end of the month. So we went from 5 hours to 15 minutes by implementing a new middleware, we call it middleware. So this is some software that sits between Apollo and FreeAgent, which is our accounts software. FreeAgent's similar to Xero, if you've ever used that, or QuickBooks. What we did is made it so it would be able to enter all our customers in. So we put the account information from FreeAgent. So we could say this Apollo information, a customer here links to this customer account in our account software. So we put that link in our middleware and also the cost for per hour for that project. Longer projects, maybe we've done a better deal with those guys. But instead of just having a single product price in our account system, we could actually tailor it per customer in our little middleware. So now we just run a button, it goes away, it hoovers up all of the timers and then pushes them out and creates an invoice. And it even makes a nice time log with all of the comments that goes through as an email to the customer, and they can see that their invoice time, what we did, what all our activities were during that month, so they know what they're paying for. For our HR activities, we use a product called charliehr.com. This is brilliant for onboarding. So we just had a new developer join us a couple of weeks ago, and I sent him the link to this, and he put his P45 up there. He put all of his emergency contact details, all of his personal details. Everything I needed to know was just there for me, and he filled it all in. It's great. I suppose when you're dealing with nerdy developers, they tend to fill things in well. Maybe not everyone will, but that was brilliant. It manages all of our holiday requests. So the guys, they just log in, say, I want this request. It sends me an email. I can just go, yeah, accept or reject. It integrates it into our shared calendar, so everybody knows who's on holiday and when. It manages their holiday allocations, so they know immediately just by looking at how much they've got left. Manages review cycles, so we make sure that we don't miss them. Every quarterly we do a review with these guys. And the handbook's in there, and they also throw in something called perks, where they give you discounts and rewards with over 30,000 people. So these are the things where you buy a pizza, you get one free, or that kind of stuff. I'm sure you've seen that. But it's a great app because it manages, like it says in their literature here, this screenshot, their entire employee life cycle in one HR system. Just keeps you organized. It's super important when you've got employees that, I don't need to tell you, that you get this stuff right, and this product really helps us. Telephones. I I threw this one in because a lot of people just either stick with a mobile phone or they go away and still think phones are mysterious and they should pay someone to look after them. Zipgate, again, we've used them from day one. I've got a physical phone in the office. I've got one at home, and I can run a soft phone on my on here if I want. So that one phone number will ring all of those at the same time. And each one of the guys has got the same, all the developers have this. So we can have, we've got 3 incoming phone numbers. We've got one for each product. So our SaaS product's got a different phone number, and we know when that dials in that we answer the phone as Board Clever, because it's not a PBX call. It's got all the typical features that you'd expect from a telephone system. You can transfer calls, you can block nuisance calls, all that sort of stuff. And the other nice thing is that you've got automation. So answer machine messages, they go straight into our CRM system. So if they call out of hours, we come in the morning, look at our CRM, there's the inbox, and we know to call people back. Doesn't need me to be here. I might be on holiday, or I might be late having a meeting or doing something like this. The guys can pick that up and deal with it while I'm busy. But that is just $22.95 a month as a service, as a software as a service. And it's pretty reliable, works really well. Marketing and CRM. So we're using HubSpot. There's way too much to go into in this presentation now. I just wanted to give you a very quick taste of what is possible with a good CRM system, a good marketing tool. It can get quite expensive depending on how you use it. This is one of those examples of where it's free to enter it. Start using it. They want to encourage you to use it. And the more you use it, they start ramping up the price. But if you're using it properly, it can be worth that price. There's plenty of other tools that do similar to this. So again, we're using HubSpot. One of the reasons is through our JV that we're doing with the Bode project, is we are HubSpot partners, and we are working with the APIs and integration so we can get data in and out of HubSpot to do bigger, better things. So some very quick features of this. How many of you have spent lots of money on an AdWords campaign with no measurable return? I think we've all been there, plowed money into it and not really seen much come back. It's very easy to give you money away on there. The whole idea between HubSpot is what they're doing is getting you to run very highly effective target campaigns to specific people. So for example, you might do business owners in Wellington or business owners in Bridgnorth. This will help you build your campaigns within HubSpot itself and then create them on Facebook ads. It then knows where they came from within their system. So it knows that that Facebook ad generated that particular feedback. You can do things like put a form on your website to request information that you want. So you create the form within HubSpot. On the right hand of the screen, you can see all the fields that they're building here. And then that will just pop up. You can, if you're using WordPress, you use a HubSpot plugin, and this will just go away and it'll get this form that you've created on HubSpot. So you're not paying a developer like us to make these forms for you. You can do them quite easily yourself. And this might be on a landing page or something on your website. And that data then immediately will get put into your HubSpot CRM for you. You're not receiving an email and having to type this stuff in. Through automation, so when they're filled in that form, they can then get an automated message with some sort of call to action. So again, you can define and create an email. Here is a button saying book a meeting on GDPR. So this flow of somebody came in from an AdWords campaign, they clicked on your website, they filled in a form, they're now getting an automated response. After that, you can then tailor follow-up emails. So it will then, within certain time periods, start to say, hey, you've not done this, or are you still interested in this? Give us a shout, and set all these little delays and follow up, just constantly poking them until they hopefully talk to you. So once you've identified your prospects, all of your prospects through this marketing function, you can then go to the CRM side of this and have a look at all the people that have been flowing in and decide to target them for specific messages. You've got things like sales pipelines. So depending on what you're selling, you can adjust these pipelines. So we have these for Board Clever, where we get an inquiry coming in. We then contact them initially to make that, hello, are you interested? How can we help you? we like to give you a demo. To then go on to a demo, we schedule a demo for 30 minutes or so. We screen share and take them through the product. We then give them 30 days to play with it. And so this sales pipeline is step, 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 till eventually, we talk to them halfway through the demo. We've got an automated email that says, hi, how are you getting on? Any problems? Can we help you? Hopefully by then they're using it, they're really seeing the benefits. And then by the end of the month, it's no brainer for them to fill in a direct debit form, and away we go. It works really well. The CRM records all the contact information, all the deals, all the communication, everything with that person, as you would expect a CRM system to do. But the real power is sales sequences, spending time to build out your sales sequences, the automation. This is, again, back to processes. It's how do you go through all those stages to get that person through the best experience. It's a bit like the Starbucks idea. You know, what is my process to get these people on board, and you can set it all up on there. So I thought maybe you guys in the next breakout then could have a chat about software that you use, maybe what you would recommend to each other, what benefits you get from that. Johnny's muted.
I am. Great. I'm going to reopen the breakout rooms. I'll see you back here in probably just under 15 minutes, but see you back here in a little while. Thanks, Peter. Jason and Julie, I think there's a breakout room happening now. Julie, can you hear me? Hi, Julie. Hi, Julie. Do you want to jump into the breakout room? All of a sudden, he just appeared back, and I was busy doing something else. So, Peter, thank you very much. If you've got questions for Pete, then I would suggest pinging those straight back, straight back. I think the temptation is to think this all looks a bit daunting and to kick the can down the road, but actually thinking about what, for instance, what good service looks like to a customer and saying, well, actually, if I do that, that, and that, then they've had good service. And then you can think about really refining what that, and that, what those 3 steps actually mean, and really, really sort of getting good at them. And it's so that whole concept of doing less better. You can also see when you're doing these processes about the things that are perhaps unnecessary, and and just making it really, really good. Where perhaps speedy service equals good service, or perhaps customer care is key, and where people feel looked after rather than sold to. Those, all of those aims that we put into place. So yeah, so thanks, Pete, for taking us through that. I have done a recording of this meeting, so we'll edit that, and I will make sure that we include that on the email on Monday. So if you need to refer back to this, because I know there's a lot of information in there, then that'll all be available as well.